There's a few elderly, few knowledgeable ones yet that still possess this understanding. And the younger generation must learn these things from these ones, these knowledgeable ones. The keepers of the wisdom keepers of the knowledge. For they have many of the answers that the whole world is looking for. So what little knowledge that is left of this seed can grow once again. If you look around to all the birds, the winged ones, the four-leggeds, all the different relatives here on this earth, they are still singing the same song that they sung thousands of years ago. And it is only the two-legged now who has wandered off the sacred path and is abusing the sacredness in this world. The Great Spirit gave him the gift of taking care of other things. He gave him the understanding, the sacred power to decide. So the two-leggeds has to get back on the red road again. They must teach their children these things. They must bring this awareness to the world so that we can once again see a bright future for our children. So we have to humble ourselves and put generosity in our hearts and pray for that understanding. And in that way, in the eyes of the Creator, we put ourselves above no one, but we put ourselves equally with everything, all living things in the world. It is the wish of the elders and many of our people that we try to pray and once again focus back on the original instructions that were given to us. But we must prepare ourselves first for this great understanding. And it is told by old ones that many, many races of people will gather. The black man, the white man, the yellow man. They will all come. And now they are all here.
In 1492, Christopher Columbus noted the extraordinary grace and generosity which the Native Americans extended towards him when he first landed on their soil. So peaceful are these people that I swear there is not in the world a better nation. They love their neighbors as themselves, and their words are always gentle and accompanied by a smile. Hardly the savages they have been characterized as. Since the dawn of their civilization, Native Americans have passed on orally the teachings and knowledge which allowed them to live in sacred harmony with themselves and ultimately with the universe. This knowledge has been entrusted over the eons to ancient sacred ones, or wisdom keepers, miracle performers of miracles. Native Americans called these sacred ones µ men, because they understood the connection between the cosmos and its energy, the spirit and power behind all things. They conveyed this wisdom to their people, who incorporated it into a way of life, a path of right living where every moment, every breath is precious, which they call walking the red road. The Lakota way of the red road means literally to walk the talk, investing every step with clarity, purpose, and concern for the universe around them. Yet as man has become more sophisticated and educated, he has not evolved. Our soul has become immersed in external things, possessions and power. We blame others for not doing what we ourselves cannot do. The elders say that we walk the black road. Man has lost his way. The Lakota wisdom keepers have silently watched how our mindless stumbling along the black road is pushing mankind headlong towards events of cataclysmic proportion. The need for an awakening and thereby healing is so great, in fact, that for the first time in history, reaching back thousands of years, they are sharing some of their most sacred teachings in an effort to help each of us get back on the red road. Access to practices and oral traditions of Lakota holy men and teachers is extremely rare. It's becoming more so in the face of an increasingly mechanical modern society in which the number of these µépì men, these teachers, is declining. But the way still remains for those willing enough to seek it. From the beginning, this project was touched by powerful influences. The producer had spent time among the Lakota, reaching out through various channels to many spiritual teachers and inviting 12 of them to participate in this film. 9 declined, preferring silence to instruction, especially to the uninitiated. We send them our blessings. April 11th, 1994. 3 Lakota elders from the Black Hills of South Dakota, Joe Flying By, Dave Chief, and Leroy Curley arrived. Each one came to share knowledge and teachings in an effort to guide men on the path of the Red Road. Another challenge faced the filmmaker. 2 of the elders preferred to speak in the Lakota language. According to the nature of Lakota oral tradition, elders speak for as long as they wish, so direct translation becomes difficult as interruptions are not permitted. Without prior arrangement and not knowing the 3 elders, a spiritual interpreter, Joe Chasing Horse, appeared on site. A spiritual interpreter remembers by the heart entire transmissions given by an elder, no matter the length, and passes on the words and meanings. What you're now about to hear is unrehearsed and completely spontaneous, delivered as it has been for thousands of years in the oral tradition of the Lakota. Listen now as Joe Flying By recounts a tale at the very heart of Lakota spirit and culture, the ancient story of White Buffalo Calf Woman. This parable is about choice and consequence, especially in the midst of great trials. The Lakota explain that the White Buffalo Calf Woman is called a creation story because it offers a situation by which we can begin again. This ancient story is contemporized by every generation, reestablishing in each age standards of conduct in maintaining order among men in accordance with divine law. It teaches living in balance between inner understanding and outer behavior. Today, we are quick to judge and fast to blame others for our own problems. We live in a state of spiritual and emotional emptiness because we believe the answers lie outside ourselves. It is only by consciously and individually seeking truths higher than our sense-based reality that we can realize a better and higher road. µép'ny‐ощ. We are all related.
And it is told that there were 2 warriors that were out hunting for food. And they seen something coming. It was a beautiful young Lakota woman. One of these warriors saw this woman was not walking on the ground. She was walking above the ground. And so he turned to the other warrior and told him, this is a sacred being and we must respect. And so, as this sacred woman approached him, this other warrior that was there immediately had bad thoughts in his mind because this girl was so beautiful. And so this young, beautiful girl said to this warrior, "Come, step forward and do whatever's in your thoughts and whatever's in your mind." And as he stepped forward towards her, a cloud came down out of the sky and it covered them. And as the cloud raised towards the sky, and the woman was still standing there, but this warrior was all bones, and his bones turned to all the different types of snakes. And she turned to the other warrior and she told him, "Go back to your people and gather them in a circle and tell them that I am bringing something very sacred to the nation." And when the warrior had heard and seen all this, he began to pray. And he went back to his people, and he gathered all the people in a circle. And surely, as she said she was going to come, at sunrise on that day, the people waited, and she came. They say she came off of a white cloud. She stepped off of the cloud into the center of the circle of the nation, singing this song. Prepare yourself, for what I have brought here is for the future generations. Your people will be strong and happy to the end of this world, if you remember the things that I have brought here and taught you. And it is told that she brought a sacred pipe, she brought a round stone, and she gave us a sacred hoop with 7 sacred ceremonies. And along with this sacred hoop, there was a great teaching of how the sacred hoop is connected here with the Black Hills. And she said that all the stars, the movement of the stars, would be connected here with this sacred place. And she said there would be a time when the Lakota people will walk through a great difficult road. And so during that time, we would need these sacred teachings and this sacred bundle. And she left the circle, she rolled on the ground, and as she rolled and stood up, she became a white buffalo calf. And she rolled once again on the earth, and as she stood up, she was a yellow buffalo. The third time, she became a red buffalo. On the fourth time, she became a black buffalo. And then she turned and she went over the sacred mountain. And that was the last time that they seen her. And so these things were foretold long ago. And that if we took care of these sacred things and took care of this sacred place, that there would come a day again when the sacred hoop would be mended, and that there will be once again a time of great harmony and a great beauty among our people. And so that is why I stand here on this sacred mountain, on this sacred land, and I tell these things because these are the things that I want too for my people in the coming time. So the two-leggeds has to get back on the red road again. They must teach their children these things. They must bring this awareness to the world so that we can once again see a bright future for our children. ṕ遂ญู all my relations. My name is 괘씸Ż. In English, that means chasing his horse. I am a member of the Lakota Nation General Council, serving as interpreter for many of my elders. At this time, I would like to introduce my grandfather. His Indian name is Loud Crow, and his English name is Joe Flying By. I would like to have my grandfather say a few things at this time. Many times the grandfathers had visited me and told me these things. And so what we have here is very sacred. And that someday that we would be able to pass it on to the coming generation. And there will come a time when the wholeness and the healing power will begin. So many of these things that we talk about are very sacred and they go very deep. This drum is like the sound of the thunder beings, the heartbeat of our Mother Earth. So the Lakota people, too, they carry this sound, this thunder, this heartbeat. They carry it within their hearts. The roundness of this drum is a reflection of the creation. And this drum is used for Sundance. And this drum is used to make beautiful music. And this drum is used for dancing, for when all the people can come together and be happy and dance and be as one. So this is what comes from the drum, the happiness, the wholeness, and the heart of our nation. The sacred staff here in which we have wapaha, they call it in our language. Not many men in this world are worthy of carrying the sacred staff. He who carries this staff must know how to lead the people. And the feathers that are tied onto this staff, depending on how many great things that this man had done, that's how many feathers will be tied to this staff. And he who carries this staff must be willing to lead his people in a good way, to lead his people to righteousness with the helping hand of the Great Spirit. That is the symbol of this sacred staff. And the sacred headdress symbolizing the creation once again. of the earth and of the nation. And all the feathers that extend from this buffalo hide represents the Oyate, the people who once used to camp in huge circles, and the man who wore this headdress camped in the very center of this encampment. Many great warriors know how hard it is to earn these sacred feathers. For each one that is connected onto this headdress has a meaning and had to be earned through great deeds. And so he who wore this sacred headdress wore it because he had a good heart and was worthy in the eyes of the people and in the eyes of the great mystery.
Though a revered teacher of Lakota wisdom, Dave Chief has struggled to remain on the Red Road in face of many challenges from modern America. What he found on his journey is that society's external controls like money, organized religion, and modern medicine ignore the natural connection between man, earth, and the universe. In his personal struggle to get back to what once worked for him, the ways of his heritage, Dave Chief decided to Sundance. Sundance is one of the 7 sacred ceremonies brought to the Lakota by white buffalo calf woman. For 4 days, without food or water, the warrior dances and prays. He then offers his body, his one true possession, piercing his flesh as sacrifice for his people. He takes upon himself the suffering that might otherwise befall them. Sundance is not about suffering or ritual. It is about our continual preparation and commitment to others through overcoming ego, to love beyond your self-love.
I want to, first of all, give thanks once again for this opportunity in which to be able to talk about these things here today. My Indian name is Thunder, pronounced Œ̓ʰաջಞ, and I go by the name of Dave Chief. I was born along the red shirt table there in Lakota territory. And I grew up witnessing many things that were taught to me by my grandmothers, my mother, my father, my grandfathers. It was a good way of life. We would get up with the sun. We would live off of wild, four-legged deer and other wild sources of food. And in that time, all the people were happy because we lived close to the land, united in the natural laws. And then there came a time when I got older that I joined the armed services and served this country. And then many things began to change. Many Lakota warriors, Lakota men, were taken into the military. Many of them died. The Lakota, or the original treaty that was signed between the United States government and the Lakota people. The treaty said that we would never pick up arms. Yet many of our people volunteered to go and fight for this thing called freedom and this land that we call Mother Earth. And yet, after all these things have been done, the Lakota people are still being denied their land. They are being denied this freedom of religion. They are being denied the rights, the basic rights that every human being should have in this world. And so I walk the dark road for a while as I was trying to readjust when I came back from the service. They were going through a very hard time. I began to remember my roots, began to remember where I come from, remember the teachings of the old ways. So there came a time in my life when I had to stand up for the people. I joined the longest walk across America and the trail of broken treaties. When we had traveled to Washington, and many of the old treaties and documents that were there. And so, because they didn't want us to know these things about our land and our treaty rights and our sovereign rights, they began an investigation. My life became difficult and dangerous. But in that time, I thought about what the old people say and the truth of all things. And that's what made me strong to go through many things in my life, to be able to come back here and stand up for my people. Because today, our spirituality, our sacredness, our sacred pipe, our sacred things are being abused and misused. But I want to remind us all once again of the original instructions that were brought to us long ago, and the knowledge and the understanding that the old people gave us. Never sell the sacred pipe. Never sell the sacred ceremonies. Never sell these things. Mother Earth, the sacred Black Hills, the sacred mountains where long ago the old people say we were born. This is where we come from. This is where our culture and our roots are here in these sacred mountains. And it is told that back in that time when the violation occurred here in the sacred land, they came and they took the gold, they took the silver, they took all things that were considered sacred to the Lakota people. So the United States government must return these sacred lands to the rightful guardians, the rightful caretakers of these sacred lands. In 1934, they took away our traditional government, our traditional way of life. And in its place, they forced a foreign way of governing upon our people. And now we have what they call tribal governments that are recognized by the federal government. But this was not our way. They did not give us the opportunity to voice our concerns. Many other things began to influence our people to walk the black road. Money. We did not need money back in those times to live. We Lakota people, they did not know what these things were. But today, now, money, they use it as a tool of destruction as well. To sell our pipes, to sell our spirituality. And then alcohol came into our ťīyōshbēs. And then began the great downfall of a great nation. Alcohol was used to influence others to sign treaties. It was used as a weapon against our people to destroy our nation. And then came the churches, the different denominations of religions among the white men. Those again were forced upon our people, and once again our people were divided. They argue amongst themselves about God, sacred things. And then came the paper. And long ago, it was told by our old ones that even that would be a danger to our people when they began to write everything down. For the old ways and the old laws were written in the hearts and in the minds of the people. Today, all the laws are written on paper and put on a shelf and forgotten. That's why there's so much corruption today. That even the medicine that the white man brought, that medicine is bad for our people. They give it to our people to see how it'll affect them. And they use this to experiment on our people. Many of our old ones who are in the nurseries, and it makes them forget. We already had medicine for many things, even before the white man came. The medicine that grows from the earth, the stone, the water, the plant. And this is good medicine. It does not have chemicals. It is natural medicine. And the old people knew these things way before. Our body is a part of this earth that grow here. So that medicine is a part of us. So it is good for us in the natural ways. So it's time now to go back to those original ways of medicine and learn those ways. For there is a sacred power of healing and understanding. So the Lakota people seek to preserve and protect these things, not just for ourselves, but all living things in the world. This is why that He was given us the responsibility as caretakers, guardians of the sacred Black Hills. For the Lakota, we're generous people. It's going to be up to us if we're going to pick up that understanding and carry it with us. It's still here. We have not lost it. All is not lost. There is a way that we can teach the world how to live a good life, how to respect Mother Earth, how to respect all the living things in this world. I traveled many places all over this land, and as I came back, I had decided to Sundance. 4 years of my life, and the old way they say 4 years, even 4 years before you Sundance, you have to start preparing. So I did that, and I prepare myself not only physically, but spiritually. That way, when I go into the sacred Sundance for 4 years, I pray for health and life, in unity and understanding of all my people. Not only my people, but all things in the world that I pray for. Even the four-legged, the winged, those that swim, the crawl, even the ant. I pray for all things in the world. And there are many who Sundance and do not finish, they fall, and they blame it on maybe somebody else. Oh, he's there, so she's there, so I fell. There's nobody to blame. You could not put the blame on anyone but yourself. Because if you did not prepare yourself, and if you fell, then it was because you did not prepare your body. Today, there are many Sundances that are being misused and abused. Long ago, there was only one Sundance among the Lakota people. And each nation had a representative that participated. He had to be generous and kind in his heart. He had to be good to everyone and everything. The warriors that go into the circle and they seek the help that we are asking from the Creator. The help the knowledge that we need for the future generations to go forward. So they must prepare themselves. And do it in the right way. And today, not only do we have those that are not doing enough in preparation, but we have those people that are overdoing these type of commitments, sacred commitments. But they miss the understanding of it all, of what it really is to mean to Sundance. It's not to put yourself above anyone, but to put yourself equal with an ant. For that's how small we are in the eyes of the Creator. So we have to humble ourselves and put generosity in our hearts and pray for that understanding that we humble ourselves just like a little ant. And in that way, in the eyes of the Creator, we put ourselves above no one. But we put ourselves equally with everything, all living things in the world. And there came a time after I had Sundance that I learned why the Great Spirit had sent me here to do this work among the people. That through this message that we want to share, the future generations can carry on these sacred things. For many of the knowledge and the power that the Lakota people possess is directly connected with this sacred land that we call Mother Earth. Now, we have to share these things, not only for the survival of the Lakota people, but for the whole world, for this whole earth. And the old people told us even that if we're going to call somebody our friend, we say kola in our language. But if you're going to say kola, that is a very serious word. You have to know that person. You have to know that person maybe 1 year. You have to see how this person walks his life. See how this person lives his life. For a long time ago, if you say kola to someone or a friend, you have to be willing to give your life. And there was many things that my father and my mother and my grandmother taught me. Every moment, every breath was a prayer. Every walk, every step of the way is a prayer. From the time that they're born to the time when they go to the eternal sleep, they walk a prayer, a way of life. So even prayer today may be misunderstood in a lot of ways. Because the Lakota way of life, your whole life is a prayer. Your body is the sacred pipe. Your prayer is the smoke that goes to the Tankashila. But it is a dream and a vision and a prayer of mine that through these few words and with what little knowledge that I have, that I can send out this voice, that there might come a day and a generation again that will pick up these ancient and beautiful ways and carry them. That there might be those out there that might see and hear my words and be able to understand that we are all just human beings. And being that we are all human beings, we have a heart, we have a mind and a spirit. Gifts that were given to us by the Great Spirit so that we would be able to grow and live good lives.
Lakota wisdom is not based on man-made laws, such as those of churches or governments, but on the unchanging laws of the universe. Truth cannot be conveniently altered according to need, circumstance, or changing times. Fundamental natural laws exist above and beyond the individual or organization that tries to change them. Our challenge is to realize and understand the relationship we have to these laws. Leroy Curley explains how the Lakota view natural laws, where all is connected, and how injuring or denying any one part inevitably affects the whole. Man-made laws such as the concept of money and religious beliefs are too open to interpretation and change, creating endless prejudices. Witness the Trail of Tears, broken Indian treaties, territorial rape, and the ethnic cleansing of Native Americans to this day. Lakota derive meaning for who they are and their existence through their connection with the land. For them, the Black Hills of South Dakota is one of their most sacred places. Beginning with the white settlers and culminating in the U.S. government requisitions, their land has gradually been taken away from them. Until we can restore unity to the circle by our own right action, not by action others have determined, the circle cannot be whole. And until one discovers and follows truth as established by the Great Spirit, the way of the Red Road will be impossible.
Hoa kantanka tungashila. Tungashila yotno akam. Hoa jampetu lutan yupiake yun. Na heon wopila pelo. Na lakot ia wogalaka na lakola chek yamata dokashnyam. Ake wichoni wash deste wan kocht. Hoa na watching you charge chilo. Ona kun wichoi tarum kompo hele wakanke. Hoa hen ni achji. On wopila pelo. O tronkash la lem yema takunishin. Ka oate mi trageta te chakilana. Da hai chakilana heon. Ashna petio ila blemichina on washe chamon. O lem petio ke chante wash de wopila pelo. O mi taku yas. I'm told to speak freely in trying to interpret the Lakota worldview to the peoples of the world. And I'm happy to be here to do that. And I have prayed to the great Wakantanka that I may be able to do so according to the original instructions that he gave to us in the beginning of the world. My name is in Lakota ṕ§Ꭿဿᴏြ. In English, I'm known as Leroy Curley. I was brought up in the Lakota language, fluent Lakota speaker first before I was able to speak English. And so I try to explain to the younger ones, the Great Spirit works through natural landscapes, natural ways to reveal natural laws and natural ways of worship and faith. The food is needed by the human being to live, and that's natural law. Natural laws were followed by the Lakota people. And we lived in harmony in balance with nature. There's a lot of books about native spirituality written by non-Lakota speakers, and so they don't know what they're talking about. They can write about, comment about, but they can never get into the heart of the Lakota spiritual values. And so there's a lot of misunderstanding in the world of what and who we are and what we practice and how we live. And now it's time for you to understand us. The three definitions that I'm going to talk about defines what Lakota means primarily. When you say disband, that means the Lakota nation's peoples. When you say disband, it means Lakota lands. When you say Untitled, that means the Lakota language. So these three define the meaning of Lakota. If you separate any meaning of the triangle of the land, the people, and language, if you lose one, you weaken the other two and eventually destroy the whole nation. Also, the two meanings are reduced to one. The Lakota ď'pʀᴜဿ and the Lakota µʀʀʀ are both sacred, and that the sacredness comes from the sacred above, the great ᴯᴜဿ, the great Holy Spirit, and so it comes down to one meaning of who or what is Lakota when we consider who we are. The most important reason for why I'm here today is, of course, the Lakota ď'pʀᴜဿ and the Lakota µʀʀʀ, the two related reasons why I'm here, the peoples of the Lakota nation and the lands of the Lakota nation. They are related, and so we must restore especially the Black Hills. I have yet to speak directly on the Black Hills question. The Black Hills are written in black and white. According to the Constitution of the United States, the Treaty of 1868, the Treaty of 1851, they're all laws of the land according to the United States Constitution, in fact, supreme law of the land. The United States government cannot unilaterally change that fact, and we can't change that fact, but yet they have been doing that through obtaining fraudulent signatures and not even getting the required number of signatures. 3/4 of the adult males of the Lakota nation must approve every land cession that has happened in the past. 3/4 have never signed it. It was a minority who signed it, and they took it back to Washington and said that was a valid cession of lands. And so they've been taking land away from us illegally, according to international law. That 1868 treaty still stands at 3/4 signatures required for the United States to take any more land away from us. And every executive order, every congressional act since then has been illegal according to international law. The genocide law convention signed by the United States in 1947 and subsequent conventions that the United States is party to in the UN, they have transferred our people away from the reservation in large numbers, such as the relocation program of the 1950s, the Mormon removal of children from their parents to Utah. These are all measures that are against the UN conventions against the rights of indigenous people. We had been too thoroughly neutralized by other people's speaking and talking through the media, and so we were silent for many years. But now we can get to the world and let them know who we are, and through this way we can recover who we are for the young people, especially because they're in a state of complete chaos and confusion, as you can notice by reading newspapers and see how many are arrested for any number of social disorders, drug use, alcohol use, jobless, homeless, We have all sorts of problems that this nation has. And so, so much has happened that has been of UN concern now just coming to light. What is happening in Yugoslavia, Somalia, and other countries of the world that the United States is so concerned about, they neglect and oppress us right here in the United States. I can't understand why the politicians in Washington, for the most part white Europeans, can turn their backs on their own people in say the hills of Kentucky and Tennessee, and in the inner cities of the great big urban cities, where I've seen white people broke, white people hungry, homeless. When the monetary system creates a division where some people can't get food because there's not enough money, there is something wrong there. So the monetary system is in terrible shape. Even the Federal Reserve System, that's not Federal Reserve, it's a private reserve of private financiers. And so the base of the United States system of government is through the monetary system. It corrupts people. It corrupts senators and congressmen because the financiers, the background money men and women, control the Congress. Even in schools of economics like University of Chicago, London School of Economics, they can't agree on what money is. They say it stores value, but what kind of values, they don't speak. They don't know. I believe that it doesn't store value. What it does, it stores prices, commercial prices, and it doesn't store any human value at all. They value everything except the human being. That's the fault of the monetary system. And there's the thinking in Washington. They do not think in moral terms. There is a connection that they lost. They can completely operate without spiritual values. That has to change. They have to practice law and international law, United States law, as well as United Nations law, all the same. The Lakota people, when they were completely in charge, there was full employment where everyone worked, man, woman, and child. And there was, through that, there was shelter and food for everyone. And so we had a great, prosperous way of life. In the circle of the Lakota people, the chief provided for the weakest part of the link, so that everyone ate, everyone had a home, and so that was the circle. But now there is no circle in the United States. There are people who are hungry and homeless, and our thinking in Native spirituality is complete, is whole. Our great leaders of the past, such as Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse and Bigfoot, they were spiritual, deeply spiritual people. And so we are on the move. Our spiritual strength is coming back, and in time I'm sure that we'll recover. It just took us a while to understand you in English terms, and now it's time for you to understand us, because we have a lot of values that need to be learned by white people, especially politicians and church leaders. I say this because I used to go to the Episcopal Church in Eagle Butte, but they could never get serious. They argued, they preached in legal terms. They just can't seem to become real. They just can't seem to think in real terms. Their otherworldly, all right, but the other world will take care of itself if they can take care of this world, I believe. We are completely civilized when the white people came over, and in fact we greeted them. We smoked the peace pipe with them and talked reasonably with them. The Lakota people never ever gone to another people's and there raised hell, holy hell. We never have. And so I walk completely in peace. I have no grudge. I have no ill will, ill feelings to anyone in the world. I pray with the sacred pipe, and that's a pipe of peace. I'm at peace with the world. And so I have been given the opportunity to speak the world through this means, and I wanted to recite a poem here before I conclude that I wrote in Denver, Colorado back in 1960s, when I was under heavy pressure to understand white culture and yet be me. And so I was working at a high-class restaurant as a pots and pans man in the back, peeling potatoes in the basement, this and that, just to get by the wintertime. Cold weather, it provided my room and one meal a day at the restaurant. So I wrote this poem at that time, and I want to recite the poem today to conclude my talk here. The native walks the rural past, the urban paths, and the roads between, to test the dangerous drives that play and pulse like roller coaster drops and tilt-a-whirl spins, careening around the zip-zone moods on former farm and country lanes, recording and mapping, hoping for a four-leaf intersection, hurling him straight, where someday he may grasp control at the steering wheel and softly twist a precise mixture of emotions for the tender fuel system of his soul. Thank you very much.
We have to learn to walk. To walk the path, you must experience the truth within yourself and live it. The realization that greater spirit exists is an internal process, a way. It is the way of the red road, the path of unity of all things.
It was told long ago by the Tongashilas, the grandfathers, the ancient ones. And there would come a time when the Lakota people would have no chiefs, for all the chiefs were killed. And so in that time, there was a song that the people had in memory, in memorial, to these great leaders and the chiefs of yesterday.
为这一场爱我大哥呀开了哟，他唱给那比拉耶咯，每一个开来那又好来唱为咯哟，嘿嘿嘿嘿。没打给我心。
But this is me sitting here and doing this, sending this voice, this cry, this song, this voice out to the world, that others may see and understand that we must try to uphold the culture, the language, the songs, the beauty of this way of life, and seek to protect our Mother Earth. So these few things I, Loud Crow, have said here today, the continuing life for our future generations. Oh, all my relations.
Done. The most important, that is the only thing I want to tell the world, this area. Maybe it will go to people's ear, generation, young generation. That's all I care today. I am in fear of the great mountain. Long time we're told by the old people, sacred, how sacred it is. You see, when we have ceremony, prayer, the eagle were coming and they circle about. And now there's no eagle. You see that? Because we're doing something maybe wrong. I don't know. I cannot say it. But it's for the young ones to know and someone to see it. Yeah, I'm blue style. I'm done. I'm finished.
All my relations, all my relatives. Today, as we sit here and as we think about many of the things that the old ancient ones have taught us, they taught us the sacredness of the pipe, the eagle feather, and many other sacred things that they have put here on this earth for the generations to live. And in that time, the Lakota people, they walked the red road. And long ago, Crazy Horse said that there would come a time of great suffering, beyond suffering, and that the Red Nation will rise again. And in that day, in that time, he said the earth would be made beautiful once again. And he said, in that day, I see those among the Lakota who will carry the light of the world. And he said, in that day, in that time, the whole world will come and ask for this wisdom. And the Lakota people will share this light and show them the way. So I'm going now to pass this sacred feather on to the coming generation, so that they too will carry the knowledge and be keepers of the wisdom.
Holla.